Hey guys, it's Ryan from the Melbourne Centre of Healing here. So, I recorded a video a couple of months ago. It was called Our Shadows, and it was recorded just after I got out of hospital after I had a bit of a stint in there. It was about the shadow side of ourselves that come up, and there's really dark, deep-seated parts of ourselves that we naturally want to turn and run away from, but and they can frighten us to a certain extent. And I'll link that video in the description up above or below. So I'm making this video because I was in hospital again last week, and I was in hospital all week. Pretty shithouse situation. No one wants to be in hospital. So I was in a similar situation to what I was a few months back. Now, I spoke about in that previous video the methods I applied to handle those shadows, those dark sides of ourselves. And the reason I'm making this video is to say that based on being in hospital last week, it works, right? At least it works for me, right? Because when I was in hospital last week, I had none of those shadows come up. Yeah, I had some mornings where I got up and I was depressed, but hey, I was stuck in this room with 4 white walls hooked up to an IV and not really able to do much. But, it's okay to be depressed and sad sometimes. But what I had, these shadows, these dark parts of myself that came up only a couple of months ago, they didn't come up again. And what I did in that first stint in hospital was whenever those dark parts of myself, those parts that they are on first glance quite vulgar, the first step to them was I love them. Instead of trying to turn away and push them away, those parts of us, those dark parts, are the parts that need love the most. So I would say, I love you, I love you, I love you. Next, I would say to myself, what's on the other side of this? Who am I about to become? So I use that whenever I'm going through a bit of a rough period, right? What's on the other side of this? Who am I about to become? Okay, because really things that, when we're stuck in these depressed states, we feel like it's going to last forever, but it's not. Okay, these dark nights, they always pass. And generally, if we learn from these dark nights, then who we become on the other side of it is an even greater version of ourselves. So I've used this, over the last year and a half or so to great effect. So it was interesting using it when I was at a really struggling physically, mentally, and emotional that first stint in hospital. So I was really interested to see the byproduct and how that worked. And it was sort of good that I got this reference point, having to go back to hospital to see what would come up. And I can tell you that none of those shadows came up, and it was a much more pleasant experience, even though I was in a lot of pain at the time. So look, it worked for me, and we've already got some great feedback on that first video that it helped some other people. So yeah, check out the first video, and I wish you guys all the best. Peace out.